Welcome back to another episode of Empowered and Unstoppable, the podcast for high achieving women who know they're meant for more or for different. I'm Megan Bunnell, your host, and today we're going to dive deep into a topic that every single one of us either is concerned about, loves, is uncomfortable with, and it's going to have a lot to do with money, but not just money in the numbers sense, really money in the mindset sense too. And because the truth is, your financial reality has everything to do with how you see yourself, how you show up, and what you believe is possible. And my guest today, ladies, is someone who has been redefining wealth for decades. She is a money coach and a thought leader and an author of Mindful Millionaire and the Money Catalyst, host of the Mindful Millionaire Podcast. If you haven't been there, you need to go check that out, and has been recognized by Forbes as one of the 10 women driving growth in wealth management and investing. That was a mouthful and incredibly impressive. She's also been featured in the Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, The Week, and so much more. This amazing woman is on a mission to transform millions of lives by helping people create greater wealth and freedom, not just in their bank accounts, but in their hearts, in their identities, and their visions of the future. With over 30 years in finance, her journey has been shaped by her own battles with a scarcity mindset, personal triumphs, and even moments of deep caregiving when life demanded that she absolutely pause. She empowers women through her books, her coaching, her workshops, retreats, reminding us all that true wealth has far less to do with money than the way we think, and far more to do with how we love and live our lives. So please help me welcome to our show, Leisa Peterson. Welcome to Empowered and Unstoppable, the show where high-achieving women crush self-doubt, ditch imposter syndrome, and step boldly into their greatness. I'm your host, Megan Bunnell, and together we'll unlock the mindset, strategies, and confidence you need to create unstoppable success on your terms. Let's dive in. Hello.
Hello.
Thank
so
you
happy to be here.
I am so happy you're here. Thank you so much for being here with us today. I am so excited for all of the golden nuggets I'm sure that you're going to share with us and all of the experiences and wisdom that I know we're going to gain from this time together. So, before we start off with some serious questions, I always like to start things off by getting to know a little more of the human side of our guests. So, what is something quirky or weird or just delightfully human about you that your clients might not know?
I think that's a hard one because I'm so
Tough one.
candid about everything.
Yeah.
My vulnerability is what I was going to say, but I feel like my clients know that. Let's put it this way. A lot of times when you've had great success, from whatever people view that as,
Mm-hmm.
people don't expect you to be so humble and honest about the struggles and the difficulties and the challenges. And I am very forward facing about that part of myself because
Love it.
I want people to know that you can be ridiculously human with all kinds of quirks and strange behaviors, which I feel very, very comfortable expressing,
Yes.
and still be very successful. So that's what I would say.
I love that. And I think that's a really good reminder that money, success, again, like you said, however you define that, none of that makes us any less human. And if anything, it really just amplifies those little things or those quirks that make us so unique and amazing. And that's where that connection really all begins. So thank you. I love that. I love it. Okay. You have said that much of your early life was shaped by a scarcity mindset, which I'm going to assume that a lot of our listeners know what that is, but they'll learn more about that as you talk about it. Can you share kind of how that showed up for you and what began to shift as you started moving toward abundance?
It's helpful to just explain that I didn't come from money, that my parents really struggled. They were married at 18 and 19,
Ooh,
no college, no experience, and both of
yeah.
them had come from really traumatic backgrounds.
Ooh,
So that set the stage for the life that I would come into, firstborn, East Bay area, not very much money. My parents were hippies, which was interesting also. But in the early 70s, growing up, we were always outcasts. And we had this problem with money, which was my parents didn't know how to use debt. Nobody had taught them about good money management. And so they were always in trouble. They would lose cars. We lost a house when they were able to buy one. Like we were always struggling. And so the past was really about how do I break out of this pattern that I felt like I had inherited from my parents. And so early in life, I said to myself at like 8, 9, 10 years old, if I have a lot of money, I won't have any problems and they'll all go
Mhm.
away. And so, you
Magic
know,
money makes it all go away.
makes it all go away.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so I just started working early, started building businesses when I was like 8, 9, 10 years old. I got my first checking account at 12, credit card within months of that because I lied about my age at JC Penney's. And
I love
I,
it. I love
I'm just
it.
like, just to set the stage. But the problem is that even though I knew what I wanted, I didn't know how badly those imprints early in life were affecting the way I went about life. And it would be many years, like decades, before I understood that I needed to make some changes in the way that I thought about money. And that began in my 30s when I started having children. And I was at the top of my career. Everything was going right. And yet I started to see that I had a really unhealthy attachment to how money played out. Like I would make choices around my family, around my career, always around how much money am I going to get and how much money was at stake. And that is not a healthy lens to live your life.
No, no, I love that. And that's powerful because so many women, I think, attach abundance to the idea of adding more, having more, things being easier, right? When really it having that abundance is about removing those beliefs and that baggage and understanding the how to that are holding us hostage. And so that's a long time though, Leisa, from going from 12 to your JCPenney credit card to 30 and misusing, mismanaging, misattaching your money. Like that's a long time, and I think a lot of the people listening maybe are still in that stage. So how did that part of your life and before being 12, just your younger years help shape what you do now?
It first taught me how to have compassion for myself and for my clients, that we don't all have these wonderful backstories about money. We
Mhm.
don't all have great teachers. And
Mhm.
I feel like what I do now is I give people a role model and write books and give talks about what does a healthy relationship with money look like? How does that play out in your relationship with your partner? How does that play out in the way that you raise your children? Like now I feel like I'm very committed to this mission because it was so messed up before. And
Mhm.
yet now I look at my children, 20 and 28, and they have such powerful, healthy relationships with money. And I think, wow, first of all, kudos, because their life is going to be very different than my own. And
Yes.
it's already
Yes.
proving that. But it shows me that I made the turn, that I changed, the legacy in my family from an unhealthy system to a healthy system. And now I think, well, I might not be a parent to more than 2 children, but why can't I be a parent for a whole bunch of other people
Including
instead?
older children. Lots and lots of older children. We need you
Yes.
too.
Yeah, I feel this like grandmother energy coming on of like, okay, let's do this right. And who needs some extra guidance around these topics?
I love it. Well, and we are all so grateful that you went through that so that you can be that motherly, grandmotherly, expertly figure for us. So thank you for translating that into the work that you do. It's so incredibly necessary. I'm very thankful that you exist and that your gifts are being given out to all these people. You have said that through your professional journey, that a pivotal moment that you had was deciding to write your first book. And you had mentioned that, write books and share. And I feel like that is an incredibly bold and vulnerable step for anybody that's never done that. It takes a lot. So what did writing that book do for you? Not just personally, but for you. I'm sorry, not just professionally, but for you personally as well.
It was a very magical process. I have to say that, because coming from where I came from, the idea that I would, have this incredible publisher and agent help me steward a book into the world is just another confirmation that I was on the right path. But that book, The Mindful Millionaire, which I wrote in 2018 and 2019 and was published in 2020, sold more than 20,000 copies. It's been published in India in addition to the US. The book was my opportunity to take these disparate ideas that I had collected, MBA in finance, certified financial planner in the US, all this time working with people and money, and to basically blow up all the conventional ideas of things that I had learned and say, we've got it all wrong. And if we don't pay attention to this, we will not have the kind of freedom that we want, because it isn't, like you said, just about the money. It's about this really messed up conditioning that we receive from our society about the role that money plays in our lives. And so I took it upon myself to question the assumptions that we don't receive enough education about money early in life, that we're given really terrible messages about the goal in life is to exploit people, exploit resources, exploit the environment. Like, we have to question these assumptions, or we will not create a better world for our children and for
Yes.
those who come. So it was my opportunity to really put ideas out there and give myself permission, which, looking back, is still crazy to me, because nobody was going to give me that permission except the fact that the publisher was like, yeah, we want this book, or my agent was like, yeah, I'm going to help you. But that book took everything, because along the way, I had to give up the idea that maybe I was wrong, or maybe there wasn't a reason for these ideas to be presented into the world. And thank goodness I did, because I feel like I was a bit naive. It wasn't until the book came out, and about 6 months after, where I started being like, what have I done? Is this
What did I
is this
do?
safe? What have I done? Because I was so wrapped up in the book and getting it out there, I didn't realize how different my perspective was, because you go down that rabbit hole and you're like, I'm just going to say what I want to say. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have been that wild. Maybe, one of the things I do in the book that had never been done before is I teach people about money and how money works through the lens of the chakra system, which is super woo woo, but
Mm-hmm.
it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't. Like, it was very practical, but I just saw this combination of this ancient form of psychology, is how I look at the chakra system
Yeah.
in the Hindu culture, in India, especially. Interesting that my book would later be published in
In
India,
India.
right?
I was
How
just thinking
crazy
that.
is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
But I was trying to give people a whole new frame of reference, because if I started from where people exist with money, it could take as long as it took me 30 years to learn this. So
Yeah.
I thought, well, what if I bring something else in and just teach a whole new system? Maybe people will have huge transformation in their lives just by seeing this new system. And sure enough, I think that's why the book has been so successful, is that I didn't do it like anyone else had ever done it. I wrote a money book that was truly unique from a very feminine perspective.
Yes. I love that. Well, and I think that that's huge, because I do think that's why a lot of the conventional, let's say, ways that we go about living life aren't working for people, is that we need a different way of viewing it. And especially as women, we're on that softer side and more in touch with our being, with our emotion, with our mind. And so you brought those two pieces together seamlessly, and almost forced us to own it, to see it in a way that we understand it. And when we start owning it, then it stops owning us. And so I think that was an amazing option for freedom that you provided, which Thank you. Again, all the thank yous to you. Absolutely. So
Can I
something, yes, no, go.
add
Go.
just one thing? Because we're talking to women in this conversation who, much like both of us, have unique ideas in the world. And they may be really scared about bringing those ideas into fruition. And I wanted to pause on that and say, you will never not feel scared. The more unique your ideas are, the more scared you're probably going to be at the deepest level of your being
Oh,
about
yeah.
bringing that stuff into the world. And I just want to pause to say, please, please, please move past all of those fears and share those unique aspects of what's going on inside of you and whatever you teach or whatever you want to pass on to others, because it is in the edge of what we're most scared of that will have far bigger chance of actually taking off in the world, in the places that scare us the most.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that that's a really big piece of advice and almost permission to give them. And actually, you've said, I think that one of your biggest lessons is that anything is possible when you believe in yourself. And I really do feel like you can do something while afraid and crushing it all at the same time, right? Every time I walk on a stage, I still get nervous, right? I still get this anxious energy. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. Like, don't fall on the steps. I mean, the silly things, right? And I've been on I don't know how many stages. But you can do both. But it sounds so simple to just believe in yourself. And yet it's not easy, right? So how do you coach women who maybe have those unique ideas and yet have this massive amount of fear to rebuild belief when life has maybe knocked them down while trying to pursue it?
I like to talk about baby steps, like let's go slow and consistent and know that the fear isn't going to go away, but like, what is the next tiny step that you could take today, tomorrow, the next day? Like, break it down into even things like, what are you going to put on your calendar? How can you make sure that those things you're putting on your calendar every day are like actionable items? Like, I opened the document in my Google, spreadsheet. I filled in these very, very tactical like steps because we get so overwhelmed by the strategy. We get so overwhelmed by like, this is what I want to see in the world. This is how I want it to change. But we have a hard time drilling it down to just these tiny steps like, okay, today I'm going to do this, and tomorrow I'm going to do that, and the next day I'm going to do that. And then before you know it, you've made so much progress and you've got momentum going that you're able to keep it going. But people do get stuck on those really tiny, just one day after the other, especially as busy moms, as busy
Mhm.
humans, we get so distracted. And yet, I love that idea of like 30 days, you look back and you've taken a step every single day. And now you've got all of that progress to
Yep.
show for that. That's how I look at my life. Even today, I'll do things and I think, oh, this isn't going to be successful. This is really a risky thing to do. I'm not sure where it's going to go. And I'm like, okay, you can't think like that. You just have to like start doing it, get it
Yes.
done.
Yeah, and I love that because I think belief really is a muscle, and you don't need things to be perfect, and you don't have to see the entire journey, but taking little tiny steps like that, you're exercising that muscle until it gets strong enough to carry you forward. But it takes those intentional, purposeful, even if tiny steps. And like you said, I love numbers. And so you said, like 30 days. If you did something every day, that's 30 tiny steps. Who knows what you got done in that time? That's amazing versus being so scared you don't take one, right? I mean, things happen quickly when you're going a little bit at a time. And I think that's something that's important here too is, I had mentioned even if they get knocked down, and let's be honest, life does that, right? Like life forces us to shift gears, to pivot, or straight up just smacks us in the face with something that didn't work. And you've shared about having to shut down your business because you were caring for your husband during his cancer treatments. And talk about a big pivot, right? Talk about not being on track for what you thought, you were headed towards or doing. And that I think is such a profound choice. What did that season teach you about, specifically for you, about money, wealth, and what really matters in life. You're listening to another episode of Empowered and Unstoppable. We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors. Are you ready to take your success to the next level? Visit www.meganbunnellcoaching.com.
It taught me so much. The first thing that I want to say is it showed me the value of building wealth, because I had the opportunity financially to say, even though we had hundreds of people in our programs and a lot of people were counting on me, I was able to say, they're going to be okay without me. They'll find other coaches during this time, but who really needs me right now is my family and my husband. And I have the strength to tell people this very uncomfortable, difficult news and shift my attention in a very short amount of time towards who needed it most. And by the way, he's doing phenomenal, cancer-free,
Love it.
everything's amazing. And even though the cancer, now we look at it as showing up as like an incredible teacher, because both of us are living at a level in our lives that I don't know if would have been possible without the cancer. Like, it questioned, everything. But but I was able to do that because I had the financial resources. And something about this work, and this is a question back to you as well, the more we live into, we'll call it our purpose, or we live into like full out authentic living, the more we're forced to be honest with those expressions that arise up. Like, we can't ignore the things that we may have ignored in the past. And let's go into this a little more detail. As a coach, it's really amazing to build a community of people who are listening to you, who are eager to receive your advice, who help you see yourself in a whole new way, right? Because people are like, I value what you're saying. I want to spend time with you. Here's my money. I want to contribute, like, it's a wonderful journey.
Yes.
And when this happened with my husband, I had to realize that even in building my business, I think at that point it had been 8 or 9 years in business. Now it's over 12. I had become somebody that I love and I'm very appreciative of. But all of a sudden I was like, well, what happens if I take all of that away? Who do I become when that is let go of? That was probably the hardest part of the whole thing, because my identity was wrapped up in being seen in this certain way. And it scared me. And yet I was like, if this is what life is presenting to me, it means that there is a teaching here for me to learn. And what I will say on the other side of this is, obviously I was able to do that. I was able to look at those kind of skeletons of like, wow, you're kind of attached to these feelings of people revering you and putting you in this certain way. And now you're going to walk away from it. And who are you going to be outside of being a coach or having this successful business? On the other side of it, I have learned that I have so much more to offer the world than even in that one way that I was defining myself as a coach or as a mentor. And I love the fact that the resilience that I evidenced for myself in going through that is now continuing to show up. Like, I wouldn't have had time to write my new book, The Money Catalyst, which improved my life, my husband's life, so many people's lives, because it was a group project, I'll say. I wouldn't have had the time to do that. Like, so it just keeps unfolding. What does it mean to keep growing and expanding? Maybe it isn't in this form of business that I created. Maybe it's in a whole other way. Now I'm excited about writing more books. I love the idea that I have that kind of freedom to continue to change and not be attached to any one definition of who I am.
I love that. And I do think it's important to continue to really look into how we are defining ourselves, what our identity is based off of. Because like you said, I think it's so easy for people, especially people that have, a 9 to 5 job, that's most of your awake hours. And if you are allowing that to define you and that is your identity, you're leaving so much off the table that really is more a piece of you inside than what it is you do from 9 to 5. And so taking that pause to recognize that, even if there's not a forceful pause, right? Like yours was almost forced, but what a beautiful gift. But we all can do that, right? We all can find those pauses to really think and analyze what our definition of success is, what our definition of wealth is, what our definition, what our identity is, right? And redefining that as we need to. I love that. That's beautiful.
There's one thing to that, because back to the listeners, I think that the opportunity that I just want to share, because I've met so many people in the course of running my business, when we're successful in one area of our lives, there's sometimes a concern that if I go over here and I start my business, or I go do something that I don't have any experience in, that we might not be as successful in this new area. And back to what you said before, confidence is amazing, because what I've seen over and over and over again is that when we trust that those same skills that helped us develop great success in that one area, maybe working for someone else, are brought over to starting a
Yes,
business, there's no reason why we can't not just have the kind of comparable success, but actually have far more success than we ever dreamt possible. And it's actually in the process of changing from one role to another role that we grow to be able to have greater success. So if we never make that leap, we wouldn't even know who we become through that process.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that's true of so many transitions in life, not just in career. But the foundation that we're making of who we are and why we are successful where we are absolutely are transferable. Those don't leave because you lose a title or you lose a relationship or you leave a town, right? I mean, any big transitions, you are going with you, and all of those pieces of you that make you amazing wherever you were are going with you. Yeah, I love that. And I think something that goes along with the idea of carrying things with you is maybe those things that we don't need to carry with us and the chance to be free of those. And you've talked about kind of clearing out the baggage, right, of the past so much that you no longer tell yourself stories that hold you back, right? Because they really are ingrained in our brain. Can you give us an example maybe of that idea of letting go of those things that we don't need to take with us, whether it's from our childhood or from a past experience, maybe a story where you had to clear out, and how listeners can maybe start rewriting their own, possibly giving them that freedom to make those transitions?
So many different stories come to mind for myself and for my clients. Oftentimes, let's just talk about money for a second, because I have
Okay.
had so many stories about this, because people do come to me who are trying to kind of take things to the next level as it pertains to money. I feel like a lot of times people really struggle if they haven't had great success with money. And this doesn't mean that I have plenty of people who've made a lot of money, but they just haven't been able to keep a lot of money outside of
Mhm.
maybe a 401k, that automatically gets saved
Yeah.
as part of their job. But when we have not had good success with money in the past, and we know it and we think about it and it makes us really sad, that is a really good opportunity to realize that those stories that we're holding on to are going to need to be completely released before we can go and create a completely different experience with money that we will be proud of. And over again, this would be a hard thing for people to often do,
Yes.
because, for me, going back to my own stories, I was a financial advisor. I have always been involved in money in some capacity or another in my career, and then also building wealth. Much of my wealth and my husband's wealth has come from real estate investing more than it has from stock market investing.
Okay.
We did a lot early on with the stock market, but in 2008, we got a phone call. This is actually 2000 and beginning of 2008 when the markets kind of fell apart. We got a phone call from our advisor saying over $300,000 was gone overnight, and the auctions that the money had been held in, which was presented to us as safe as cash, was gone, and we weren't maybe ever going to get it back because the auctions had failed.
Ouch.
Yeah, like just sit with that. And by the
Yeah.
way, that money was earmarked for a house that we were building at the time. So we needed that money to finish a house. Like it was a double
Ouch.
whammy.
Yes.
And so, okay, you get that kind of phone call. I'm an advisor. I have an MBA in finance. I've been working in the money business all these years, and yet here I have just found out that I made the biggest mistake of my life with money, and it's going to affect our family. I would
Heavy.
love to tell you that that was like something I just, oh, we'll get through this. Well, we did get through it. Ultimately, there was a class action lawsuit against the bank and the money was returned, but we didn't know it was going to happen for almost 2 years' time. So, 2 years we lived with this and we had to get different financing to cover the shortfall and keep things moving. It'd be one thing if we were able to let that go, but no, it stayed with me for at least another 10 years in my behavior around stock market investing
I
because
can imagine.
it was so traumatic. I was so afraid of losing that I had a hard time taking advantage of what was about to happen in the stock market. We weren't
Yeah.
invested like we should have been. And that really bothered me. So not only was it bad, it went worse because every day that I wasn't investing, we were losing money that we could have regained.
Yes. Yes.
That's the kind of situation that sometimes we find ourselves in. Hopefully not as severe as that, but everyone can feel the fact that, yeah, Leisa, if you don't get over that, you're not going to be able to move forward. And
Hmm.
I really do think that it was in the process of writing my book, being very candid about my mistakes and what had happened with that, that allowed me to truly heal 10 years later so that I could start to invest again in the stock market, so that I could take advantage of opportunities. But I needed to take the time to really be honest with myself, do the spiritual clearing that I'm
Yes.
sure people know what we're talking about here, but I had to go deep and dark and into the shadows of my own thoughts of inadequacy before I could completely heal, forgive, let go, and move into a whole other dimension with my money story.
Yeah.
So does that answer your question?
Yes. No, absolutely. I think that's incredibly transformational because the stories that we tell ourselves truly either build us a prison or they build us a path, right? And you always get to choose which one that your stories are going to tell. And I think without even knowing, and it sounds like in that case, you had that fear obviously and you were aware of the fear, but maybe you weren't exactly aware of the prison that you were in and what you were missing because you weren't walking on a path you were so scared to walk down. And it all has to do with the story and the trauma that we, have that as a narrative in our head. And it takes intentional effort to be willing to go, as you said, kind of into the shadows to clear that out so that we are free to choose, truly choose intentionally where we want to go without making choices and taking actions or lack thereof based on the narrative. Yeah, I think that's exactly what I was asking. I
And
cannot
I,
imagine.
I sorry, I didn't know. I want to also say, like, I didn't know that it could be healed. Like,
Mm-hmm.
go back to 2008, the things we're talking about, the things that are current in 2025, and the tools that we have are not something that were being talked about back then. And so it was learning these techniques and learning these practices and getting help and getting coaching and getting support that would allow me to let go of that and then begin to do the tiny steps that we talked about earlier
Mm-hmm.
that would rebuild the approach that I would take and the
Yes.
different techniques that I would use. And I still learn those today. Like it's not a one and done. It's like I continue to learn new strategies, even with investing, that I appreciate and that I feel comfortable about. Like it's an ongoing process, but I'm no longer afraid to look at, things that used to scare me.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm trying to imagine getting a phone call like that and just instantly putting on the heaviest backpack that I could imagine and carrying that around for 10 years, right? I mean, I know part of that lifted maybe a little bit when you found out you were going to get the money back, but that is a long time. And you're not alone in that, maybe in that specific story, but in us carrying around those narratives that are so incredibly heavy. I am proud of you that you got through that. And I hope I never have to have that phone call forever.
Yes.
Oh, well, okay. Into the money world of your, area of expertise and your gifts to us. To be honest, I think that a lot of us are very stuck in scarcity or overwhelmed. And by that story, for exactly those reasons, right? Like there's risk and there's wrong ways and there's things that could happen, and all of that is very overwhelming when, for somebody like me that does not have the knowledge and the expertise that you do. It's boggling how much I think we don't know and the fear that goes along with that. What is one practical next step, tiny step that we could take today to move toward financial freedom and abundance?
I feel like there's two tiny steps. One's macro
Perfect.
and one's micro. So
Perfect.
macro is, please, 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 if you haven't already made a firm decision, both yourself, your partner, because I feel like we do this together,
Mhm.
that you are going to build financial freedom for yourself no matter what. Like you're going to
Okay.
figure that out. I feel
Yes.
like we don't always give ourselves permission, especially if we have not come from a background where that was evidenced to you
Mhm.
directly from your parents or from grandparents or someone else. Like you can do this, but it starts by you giving yourself permission that this is what's going to happen and you're going
Okay.
to figure out a way. Then, if we go to the micro level, I want to say the most important thing you can do is to figure out, if you haven't already done this, a very basic financial plan, the beginning form of a plan that shows how you're going to get there.
Okay.
So this could be done on the back of a napkin, like it's like, this is what our net worth is today. Total that up. May be a really easy step for some people, may not be. But if it's not, then notice that, because I want it to be from now on. I
Mhm.
want it to be like, where you're at. This is when you calculate, right? You take
Yep.
out whatever you owe, you calculate all your assets, you take out what you owe, you've got your net worth. And then start to chart out, what would it look like? Is it a million, 2 million? Doesn't really matter because it will change. Like I
Mhm.
promise.
Right.
But
Right.
like set a goal of what you want to have. And like, what would that need to look like if you decided you were going to get there in 10 years? How much money would you have to be saving to get there in 10 years? What happens to us as human beings, especially driven human beings that I know you talk to a lot, is that we reactivate our, what is that? The reticular activating system
Activation
gets
system. Yep.
activated, yeah, to begin figuring out how that could even be possible.
Yes. I love
And
it.
and you're on your way.
I love it. Yes. So a commitment that we are going to figure out this financial freedom and then figuring out right where we are right now and how where we're going to be and how we're going to get there, just that general plan. So what if I don't know where to get this general plan from? What if I don't even know where to start with that?
Yeah, great question. I have some resources and we'll give contact information for me that I'm happy to like email to people, because I've got
Perfect.
so much stuff that's been created over the years and I'm happy to give it away. Uh, but there is a tool that I really enjoy using called Bolden.
Bolden.
And Bolden is a tool that allows you to use AI and all kinds of cool financial planning tools to come together to track your progress. So they have a free version that kind of gets you started, and then it's like maybe $140 a year. And it's instead of having your financial plan with a financial advisor, it's
Mm-hmm.
something that you start to build and you can keep track of everything. And it has cool tools that will show you like, oh, what are you going to get in Social Security, assuming it's still available, or how do
Mm-hmm.
you do a Roth conversion and how much money can you do? Like it gives you very practical tools that are at your fingertips. But the idea is it starts to show you when you have a plan in place, what that's going to look like 5 years, 10 years, at retirement. And again, I've worked in with money for over 30 years now. And whenever people take the time and energy to create a plan and pay attention to it, it changes your life. It's the people who don't pay attention to these things and keep thinking tomorrow, next year, when I have the money, that struggle because they never get really serious about like, what's the plan look like? Even if you
Yes.
don't like looking at it right now, I promise you that it will look better a year from now just by you knowing where you're at.
Yes. I love that. And I think there's more importance behind all of this. And I think you've said that too, than just the money piece. You've said that true wealth really has a lot less to do with money than most people think, right? So, what does true wealth really look like? And why is this such an important piece of that?
True wealth to me at this stage of my life is having confidence in your ability to take really good care of yourself and your family. I feel like that's even the definition of abundance.
Yes,
That
I love
you
that.
know that no matter what happens, you're going to be able to take care of what you need to take care of.
I love that. Absolutely. So, what do you do exactly? So, why would I have the opportunity? Like, what would bring me to Leisa to help me with all these things? What is it that you do?
My business has shifted over time, and more recently, we'll talk about my daughter has a content creation company that has um, exponentially increased in a very short amount of time and helping her and her husband build wealth. So, what I call sudden wealth, where you've got a lot of money coming in, but you don't have necessarily the background
Mhm.
or a mom like me who knows all of these things. What I realized in helping them over the past few years get their ducks in the order so that they're wealth builders is that I really do enjoy working with people who have a lot of money coming in, but they don't have the background of how do I handle this from all, not just taxes, which are part of it, but
Mhm.
how do I make sure that I'm making every correct decision possible to make sure that this is building wealth? And so, what's fun about this work is it's different for each person because sometimes we're really solid in certain areas. And my
Mhm.
job when I work with someone, and even just in the consultation, is to say, where are you? What are you doing now? Because I would love to come back to you and say, you are good. You do not need extra support. I love what
Mhm.
you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. But if there are places, if there are opportunities where, let's say, you need to learn how to manage your CPA better because you're letting them call the shots and you're not in the driver's seat with them,
Mhm.
or you don't understand all the things that are happening inside of your business that could be write-offs, or how you could structure things to support greater wealth building between your children and your assets and the different things that you're doing. So I'm looking for these gaps in what you've set up to build wealth, and then I
Mhm.
can support and help. And the cool thing about this work is I'm not doing this for the money. I'm really doing it because I just simply enjoy helping people. It's
Yes.
kind of like Sherlock Holmes, like
Yes.
where's the mystery? Where's the opportunity? And I wish I had had somebody like this 20 years ago. I'm
Mhm.
sure my wealth would probably be double, easily, because when we just get the right information at the right time, it is exponential what happens for us. So those are the things that I really like doing now. And I also will say in the course of that mindset stuff, in the course of me asking questions to people,
Mhm.
I will also uncover if there is a big block in someone's ability to go to the next level when it pertains to building wealth, because that will get in the way.
Yes.
You could think that you're doing all the right things, but then you are the number one problem. And
Right.
I will help people around that stuff too.
I love it. And what I heard out of all of that, ladies, is don't wait. If you're in that position and you are not confident that you are gap free, don't wait, because she can help you with getting all of those ducks in a row now so that your wealth builds as much as it can and in a healthy way. I love that. What fun work. I can imagine you in a Sherlock Holmes, hat with your little like magnifying glass checking out everything. I love it. I love it. Okay, one more question for you. If every woman listening could randomly, magically in the morning look at their bathroom mirror and there is a sticky note on it from you, what would that sticky note say?
I fill my mind with abundant thoughts, feelings, and actions throughout my day.
I love it. I'm writing that one down. That's going on my mirror. Absolutely. I fill my mind with abundant thoughts, feelings, and actions every day. I love it. That's such a good one. Such a good one. And it really is a reminder that every day has that abundance. And it's as much about who you're becoming and the actions you're taking and all of that. So good. Well, I think that this has been an incredibly valuable conversation to our listeners and to me. Thank you. And so if they are like me and they want more of you, where do they go? How do we find you? What kind of resources can we start with? Tell me all the goodness.
A great way to get started would be to go to wealthclinic.com/vision.
Okay.
And there you'll get access to the first chapters of my books, The Mindful Millionaire and The Money Catalyst, which will let you know if these are things that you think could support you.
Mhm.
You'll also get a meditation that walks you through the guidance that I give in the Mindful Millionaire, which is chakra specific meditation that it opens up the window to greater abundance.
Love
You
it.
can also check out the moneycatalyst.book.com. That's the new book, and that's a fictional parable, very short, fast.
Okay.
It's really about the relationships that you have in your life. So this is the one you have with your potential partner, the
Mhm.
relationship you have with yourself, the voices that are going on inside that might be repeating the scarcity, but yet you want to change it to abundance. So you get to go through this 34-year-old woman, Mirabelle's life journey of going from scarcity to abundance. And I'm really, really excited about what happens for people when they read that. And there's journaling questions as well. But I also have a YouTube channel, Mindful Millionaire, and a podcast, Mindful Millionaire, that you could listen to.
I love it. So many great ways to get more of you. So, my friends, all of those will be in the show notes. So, go check out the books, the podcast, the website, what was the first one? The wealthclinic.com/vision. Is that
Yes,
right?
forward
Okay.
slash vision.
Start there, all those things. Get some more of Leisa, because clearly she has a ton of experience and wisdom that can help you in your journey as well. So, thank you so much for being here today and sharing all of that wisdom, your vulnerability. Like you said, you are very forward with all of that. And that is an amazing gift to all of us. And your incredible insights about money, about life. I think you've really reminded us that true wealth is so much bigger than just the numbers. It's about that freedom and love and belief in yourself and alignment. So, thank you for all of that. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And to all of you listening, if today's episode gave you a new perspective on what wealth, please share it with a friend, a colleague, a family member, tag us on socials, go follow Leisa, and don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss next week's episode, where we will have another amazing conversation with more amazing nuggets that will come your way to help you live your 10 out of 10 life. Remember that your money story is not fixed. Your worth is not tied to your bank account. However, there is a way to have financial freedom and to give you true wealth in life. And you can take steps to making that happen right now. And that abundance that you're craving it all starts with those tiny little steps. So until next time, stay empowered, stay unstoppable, and start building that wealth. We'll see you next week. Thanks for tuning in to Empowered and Unstoppable. If today's episode spoke to you, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a friend who needs a boost of empowerment. Are you ready to take your success to the next level? Visit www.meganbunnellcoaching.com. Remember, you're not just capable, you're unstoppable. See you next time.